fined, penalized $55,000 for selling farm fresh food. So let me explain, give you some history of USDA and FDA and all that mess. I've told the story before. Years ago, I lived in a small municipality, 100 people. I mean, it was city life, I guess, but it had gravel roads. It had a mayor, no police department, no court, nothing like that. And I had a backyard, I don't know, farm. I don't know what you call it. I mean, how much can you really get into a backyard? It was probably a quarter acre, if I had to guess. I don't know. And I had a 1,000 square foot house, so it wasn't that big. Plus, we had a big garden. But I had sheep and goats, ducks, and chickens. And had some rabbits. So it was kind of a neat little setup we had. We put the sheep and the goats in tents. We had little pup tents. And they'd go in there. And then we'd let them out in the morning. I made my own chicken coop. We started out with chickens. I don't know how many we had. 5, 10, 15. I don't know what it was. Well, somebody was selling some ducks. And they said, like, you know, 30 bucks for all of them. I mean, it was something just ridiculously cheap. And there was probably, I don't know, 20 of them or something. The plan was we would eat most of them. Well, when we got them home, I wasn't a big fan. I don't think anybody in the house was a big fan of duck meat. Now, we could have ate it if it was an SHTF or something like that, but we just didn't like it, so we didn't butcher anymore. So we had duck eggs. Now, duck eggs are really good. Take an egg and you double everything with it, double the flavor, double the vitamins, all of it. They're just really good. It also had double the B12 in the duck egg. And apparently women who have had kids, not all women, but some women who have had children, can't consume a lot of B12. Of course, they still need B12. Somebody's gonna say, oh, you gotta have B12. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it can make them upset to the stomach if they get too much. I actually had a viewer tell me after I told that story that I saved his wife's life. She's been tortured by an illness for years, and they've been taking B12. So she heard the story in my video and she stopped taking the B12 supplements and she got better. Well, it affected my wife. And not only did it affect my wife, it affected one of my neighbors. It was my daughter's friend's mother. She couldn't eat them either. So we started getting a lot of duck eggs. I mean, more than what we could handle. During this time, our refrigerator broke down. So we didn't have a big tall refrigerator anymore. We had one of those dorm size refrigerators like we have now in the house. So we had all these duck eggs and no place to put them, and we could have, you know, done a lot of things with them. But our neighbors, the woman that I told you about, wanted to buy some eggs, and so we said sure. And she said, "Here's a couple bucks." And no, don't worry about that. No, you know how those arguments go. So she eventually said, "Just take the money." Okay, whatever. And we thought, well, it will help offset the cost of the food that we had to feed the chickens. That's all we considered it. So now we're eating for free is what we were thinking. You know, the neighbors are paying for the food for the ducks and the chickens. Well, we weren't selling the chicken eggs. Well, then the cousin, I don't know, it was one of my daughter's friends, but a relative of the people we started selling them to came by. Now, she was a deputy at the sheriff's department. She came by, she wanted some eggs, and eventually just more and more people came by. And like I said, we weren't getting rich from it. It wasn't something that we're trying to make a profit off of. We could sell them. We didn't have to sell them. We didn't have a sign up that said eggs for sale or anything like that. It was just all word of mouth from my daughter's friend's mother. Well, there was one neighbor who didn't get along with anybody. I don't know. There was just something wrong with those folks. They didn't get along with anybody. If they could have a fight with somebody, they would. As a matter of fact, they got mad at me because I was building a dog kennel to put my dogs in when we weren't home. That way they could go tear up the dog kennel and not the house. He got mad about that, and that ended our relationship. Well, my suspicions are he got mad that we were selling duck eggs to everybody but him or whatever. So he called the USDA. Now, I don't know for sure if he called, but somebody called. I don't see why they would have came out otherwise. I mean, I don't know. But they came out and they said that we weren't allowed to sell eggs without a license from the USDA. Now, we checked into it. Missouri allows you to sell eggs, but the USDA and the FDA and all those people, got to have certain labeling and packaging. I didn't know all this at the time, and I didn't learn about it until recently, that USDA has a lot of requirements so you can sell food across state lines. Well, I didn't know if I was selling across state lines or not. I mean, people were coming over, hey, can we have some eggs? I didn't know if somebody gave it to somebody else. I mean, who knew? So my thought was, fine, I'm not selling eggs anymore. So it really got toned down. I mean, I started telling everybody no. And my daughter's friend was stealing eggs from us. And what was really strange about her stealing eggs from us was somehow or another, $2 always ended up in the refrigerator. It was strange. But we stopped selling them. But somehow or another, we kept the same quantity level as what we had before we stopped selling them. It was really strange. Obviously, my daughter was arranging all that, you know, just go in there and take them. Don't tell anybody. Of course, she's like 8. So now we have these chickens, and everybody wants me to sell the eggs on the YouTube channel, and they keep telling me how to do it. They send me articles that Missouri allows us to sell eggs, and I know all this, but I'm not going to get involved with USDA or anybody. My whole philosophy in life is I want enough eggs that I can have eggs every day and not be overwhelmed like I was all those years ago. And we've got it pretty much balanced out. I have had eggs every day since they started producing. I would like to get it where we can get eggs twice a day, once for lunch, once for supper, and we'll get there. But like I recently reported, somebody's dog got loose and started killing chickens all over the neighborhood, and we lost a bunch of chickens. I think we lost 9. We still got 17. We'll have to get back up to the number so we can do that again. We just learned that there was an Amish guy in Pennsylvania who got in a bunch of trouble for selling meat and milk. What he was doing is he was selling a membership, because he got in trouble before. He was just selling his meat and eggs and milk to anybody who came by. Well, what he was doing, let's say he was charging $4,000 per year to his community. You know, they come up, yeah, I want to be part of your community. Okay, $4,000, and then you get meat and eggs, all you wanted. You know, I don't know how it worked, but that's what it was. It was some sort of membership. So it kind of skirted around the law. Well, the USDA came out and said he was in violation of the law, and he was just slapped with all kinds of fines and contempt of court and just lots of stuff. This made big news. A lot of people in my comment section knows about it. Other YouTubers have covered it. He was charged $300,000 in fines. So he got a lawyer. Apparently there was enough publicity about this. Some high-powered lawyer came in. The lawyer got him reduced in fines down to $55,000. He can sell his meats and milk again to the membership. The lawyer argued that the people in the membership are well aware they are not getting USDA poison. And that's basically how he put it. Apparently, there's a lot of additives the USDA requires them to add, such as citric acid and several different acids. And you would think, what, oranges? What's so bad about that? It's not oranges that's producing the citric acid. It's lab-grown citric acid. And so the lawyer was able to convincingly argue that everybody knows that the Amish are more healthy than the regular population eating what the USDA requires. That he was able to argue that the USDA requires that we eat poison. Instead of USDA pursuing this, they said, fine, we'll settle out of court. We don't want to go to court. And so the Amish guy has to pay $55,000 and he can start selling meat again, and it's all good and well. Well, now the lawyer says this can't end here. We need to be able to push the USDA into allowing anybody to sell meat and eggs as long as it's well understood that you're not a USDA certified company. That way people can have a choice in what they want to eat. Do you want to eat the USDA poison, or do you want to eat farm fresh food? So they're not done. I mean, the lawyer's going to keep pushing this. What I don't understand is the Amish guy gets to sell his meat and milk again, but he was still fined the $55,000. It's very confusing when you really think about it. My guess is the USDA started seeing all the publicity coming out of this. I mean, big, huge YouTube channels were covering this. This was getting out of hand probably for the USDA. So they just wanted to sweep it away. The USDA used a law that really doesn't apply to a farmer. that you have to have specific labeling requirements if you're going to sell foods out of state. But the guy isn't USDA certified. So why does he got to follow these labeling requirements? So why does he got to pay the $55,000 if he can still sell food? I mean, there's just a ton of questions that I don't understand. The USDA just wanted to get this swept away. He's been freezing some meat that he had stored away since he was shut down a few months ago. Well, it was early this year. They're going to allow him to sell that to pay the fines that they want, the $55,000. Sounds to me they just want money. It's extortion is what I think it is. So I'm really hopeful that the lawyer is able to push the USDA into allowing farmers to sell their milk and eggs and meat again. I mean, I know for a fact you can't sell milk anymore. Farm fresh milk, it's got to be pasteurized and sanitized, and it's not even milk anymore. It's just white colored water. Now, people are going to argue that this is all going to go away because the EPA was just sued, and the Supreme Court said the EPA can no longer make regulations because that is lawmakers' jobs, which sounds great to me. I mean, hey, great, they can't do it. But however, they're still pushing out regulations. This is what I don't understand about the Supreme Court and all these alphabet organizations. The Supreme Court says you can't do something, yet they do it. Who enforces the Supreme Court's decisions? The Congress has the right to impeach these people, but they don't. We saw this earlier during the pandemic when the president gave a mortgage and rent moratorium, said you didn't have to pay your mortgage or your rent. And so the landlords had to basically eat the cost and allow people to stay there without paying rent. Well, the Supreme Court decided that was illegal. You can't do that. But the president went ahead and did it anyways. So now what? Who gets in trouble? Nobody gets in trouble. So what was the point in wasting all that money and court costs and everything to go to the Supreme Court? Well, the same thing with the EPA and the USDA. Nobody is regulating these people. They just do whatever they want and force us to put labels and citric acid made from laboratories into our meat. Not even giving us a choice of what we want to buy. I mean, I'm fine with having a requirement that says that you know what you're buying, that it's not USDA approved. I mean, if you need to put a stamp on it that said not USDA approved, I can understand that, because there are people in my comment section, oh, we can't live without the USDA. Well, I'm of the opposite thinking. I'll be fine living without them. So if you'll click this up next box, take you to a video where I was talking about surviving this cold temperatures. So if I can inspire you to eat fresh foods so you can live your dream. Thanks for watching.